It's the 19th of October 2021. I'm Dana Durnford. I hope everybody's doing good. Except for the nuclear industry, of course. Except for the nuclear industry. Let's try that one. You can call in 709-589-4406. Don't be shy. I'm not. 709-589-4406. If you're part of the nuclear industry, come on, call in. Like nothing better than a curb stomp a bunch of you tonight. Well, it's just a fantasy that the nuclear industry will actually have a lucid conversation. They've never actually had a debate anywhere on the planet. We're having a debate tonight. Can nuclear power that needs 2 dedicated coal power plants, oil or gas plants to run, mitigate climate change? Somebody actually voted yes. I guess that was a mistake. Well, I got a big show for everybody tonight. A great big shoe. An absurd 246 counts. The Geiger counter. Thanks to the Fukushima radioactive fallout plume. That's the fallout plume based on venting, not based on the actual nuclear meltdowns. Try wrapping your mind around that one. Yeah, these are the people that are responsible for the first chain reaction. Enrico Fermi's in there somewhere, I would imagine. Piece of shit. Shocking state of the world's riskiest nuclear waste site. So the world's riskiest nuclear waste site. Now, the next one I'm going to show you is probably going to shock the living daylights out of you. The most radioactive site in the world, according to New Scientist, is surrounded by farms. Try wrapping your mind around that. That's so they can poison you. All nuclear power plants, well, 99% of them are surrounded by, are built in farmlands surrounded by farms. And most of the nuclear dumps are situated in farmlands. Remember, Australia recently wanted to do a dump right in the center of their major farming districts. And everything at a dump is vented, right? Government will at a minimum need, speaking of Australia, government will at a minimum need nuclear if it joins net zero bandwagon. This is bizarre, actually. First off, Australia has a law. They're not allowed to have nuclear power. They're too busy poisoning everybody else worldwide with uranium. As it stands, I gotta do a better job than that, I suppose. As it stands now, the top 5 emitters by countries China, 28% of global carbon dioxide emissions. United States, 15%. India, 7%. Russia, 5%. And Japan, 3%. And Australia was 1%. Of course, Australia is covered in radioactive fallout from the British, right? It's absolutely covered. Australia... the British, what the British done, they waited for the wind to blow across Australia. This is where British went to Australia to do their nuclear bombs because it's the old penal colony, right? And they waited for the winds to blow across Australia, then they set off their nuclear weapons. I'm not kidding you. Japan's Prime Minister starts off his term with a big go F yourself to the world. Japan's like, go, just die. Eat our food and die. Triggers a backlash by saying dumping Fukushima nuclear water can't be delayed. The tanks are empty. You can't fill up the tanks at 2 sieverts a liter. You can't build another tank on the site, and you can't get back on the site after you fills up a single tank. The tanks were built to trick you into believing that they're not poisoning the ocean, because that's what they done. They killed that Pacific and Outer Atlantic Ocean. And there's no words to describe a useful idiot. He's just a patsy for the industry. That's all a president of a country is. They don't have a functional part. They shake hands and get their pictures taken. That's it. They're the distraction. You yell at them and pretend that all the background things that are happening don't exist. Only 2 weeks after taking office for the nuclear industry and corporations, Japan's puppet pressed 2 hot buttons on the same day, on Sunday sending a ritual offering to the war-linked shrines and claimed Fukushima wastewater cannot be delayed. They can't keep telling lies, right? Because new generations are going to work at the plant of homeless, and they're starting to figure out the tanks are empty. I've done entire presentations on this. You can go check them out. I mean, there was 1,000 tanks in 2013, 1,200 tanks in 2014, for goodness sakes. There's 1,000 tanks today. You really think that they're filling tanks up every day, but they never fill up a single tank in 7 years? It's all posturing, eh? Iran is surrounded by 49 U.S. military bases. Well, the people who makes the weapons. That's who's got the bases. They own all the weapons. The bases, the military base, is a weapons facility. That's all it really is. It's not an actual military base. It's a weapons facility for tanks and aircraft, etc., right? For nuclear weapons, biological weapons. It's just a big garage. That's what a military base is. For nuclear weapons and misery. Here's the bases surrounding Iran. They're carrying out electronic warfare at the same time, and they had land, sea, air embargoes. There's 49 bases. So if I put 49 bases, aggressive bases around any country, is that not an act of war? Should the country try to defend itself? Does the country have a right to defend itself when it's surrounded by 49 bases carrying out illegal warfare on them? Cowardly warfare. It's a coward thing to do, eh? A startup raised $1.2 million to create mini nuclear reactors. Is this some kind of sick joke or something? $1.2 million, like, to build a nuclear power plant, just to do the studies for environmental issues, is $500 billion. It's around $500 million. Nuclear, they can't build anything for less than $10 billion. You really think that they're going to build a reactor that doesn't even exist from scratch, and they got to use the most precious resources on the planet? The media is lunatic, eh? Nuclear is back, baby! Well, it might be. $1.2 million, that's not even going to pay their wages. These are greedy people, okay? They stole that $1.2 million the minute that it was located to them. Called Radiant Nuclear. Radiant Nuclear. These are, that's why they got the money, because they're useful idiots. It's bizarre. The whole story is bizarre. And the guy who created was ex-SpaceX engineer. Whoopie-doo. Well, first off, because nuclear power plants do not burn fuel. What are you talking about? Like, you got to have 2 gas, oil, or coal plants dedicated full-time to run the massive nuclear site, the massive pumps of 1 million gallons, 4,500 tons a minute. Just to build, just to get to uranium, is the most carbon-intensive thing on the planet. To turn it into fuel is absurd carbon-intensive. To build a nuclear site, it's just, there are people on this planet that should be picked up and thrown on their heads till they can't speak any language again. Carbon free. It's just, do you think that was carbon free just to dig the uranium out of the earth? And you need 2 power plants to run it. They don't produce greenhouse gas emissions. They are greenhouse gas. It's radiation, because coal, oil, and gas emissions don't create plumes like this. And they don't pulse energy every second at the speed of light for millions of years, heating the planet up. The only thing that does that is radioactive fallout, nuclear. It was founded by a former SpaceX engineer. Oh, wow. And $1.2 million, you can't even pay off the health inspectors with that kind of money. A school. A brainwashing center's pupil questions the case for nuclear power. It's a Financial Times pro-nuclear as they get. And because the kid didn't know how to articulate what the issue is, then they thought that was great, so they ran the story. Has a significant impact on the environment. The mining of uranium, the fuel for nuclear energy plants, is not environmentally friendly, leaving behind radioactive particles and causing soil erosion. Oh man, if it was only that simple, I wouldn't be at what I'm doing. Dungeon SB, United Kingdom, BBC, remember Jimmy Savile? He raped over 1,000 children at the BBC. Who knows where else he was, all the hospitals he was at. And they all knew he was doing it. They were all participating in it. Safety reassessed at nuclear power station. They got Doneraght in Scotland there, that's going to take 300 years to remediate the site, they think. Nobody's going to be around to say, yeah, it took 300 years. It'll be 3,000 years most likely. And the chemtrails up there. And that's built on a beach. It's unusual. Normally they're surrounded by farms, right? Threw me off. I was like, what? It's not surrounded by farms? Jeez, such a thing possible? Following damage to the boiler tubes during testing in a reactor. So, no nuclear safety risk to workers or the public. And then they're like, what happened? Nothing. Just don't worry about it. Just repeat that sentence every time you're interviewed. France, who radiated the entire population of the French Polynesians. A 60-year civil war in Niger so they can have cheap uranium. They're now handing out potassium iodine pills to people stupid enough to live close to one of their facilities. And there's going to be a strike. Issues cut nuclear power generation, which is great. And so when you take a nuclear power plant offline, the first thing you notice is a decrease in infant mortality around within 50 miles of the site. The disruption represents about 12% available production. Slave labor, right? They caused a civil unrest that for 60 years invaded the country, still now occupying the country, Niger. Destroyed millions of families and children and everything else. War-torn country. They funded external war groups to come in and destroy the local governments so that France can get their cheap uranium. It's crazy. Nuclear power is the best way to replace a coal plant within this decade. Well, first off, you can't have nuclear without at least 2 oil, gas, or coal plants to run it. So don't be so quick to get rid of the coal plant. If you're going to build nuclear, you're going to need one of these or 2 of these dedicated to run the nuclear site. Colorado. We've been listening to this posturing now for several months, right? Because Bill Gates' company is going to build a reactor, they claim down there, right? You're going to need 2 oil, gas, or coal plants to run your nuclear power plant. Your carbon-free nuclear power plant. We are worried Indonesia and Malaysia expressed concern over Australia nuclear submarine. First off, you have to be insane to let Australia run a nuclear submarine. You got any idea how incompetent that military actually is? How incredibly incompetent. Literally, the entire Australian military it's considered a big joke, worldwide. They don't consider them a military. They do the laundry for the real military, basically. For the Americans, for the murderers in Britain and that, right? Canada may not need nuclear subs, but we're in dire need of a strategy. Canada got 4 submarines. They're all at the West Edmonton Mall. Tourists get in it and they drive around the mall. And then they go up to the skating rink up there. You ever see the West Edmonton Mall? It's one of the biggest in the world. For a country that constantly likes to tell itself that the world needs more Canada. I'm the Canadian son, right here, look. Period. I am the Canadian son. Probably the only honest person, public speaker in Canada. Human sex ratio at birth and residential proximity to nuclear facilities in France. So around all nuclear power plants in France, what they noticed was there was more males than females, of course, which is going to be true for insects and mammals and animals in those areas too, because of radioactive fallout. Increased human birth sex ratio near nuclear facilities has been found. Supports previous findings with new data from France, and the vicinity of nuclear facilities may pose a genetic risk to animate beings, so all species, plants included. Research in a neglected field of radiation-induced genetic effects is essential. If you start actually looking, what you find out is there's a massive amount of these studies. But there's one study in particular about nuclear weapons testing and global fallout. We changed the sex ratio of all the humans on the entire planet from nuclear war. They call it nuclear testing. It's the same bombs, the same radioactive fallout. And they changed the sex ratio of all humans worldwide, so more males than females. It's going to be true, though. You can't do that without affecting all the insects, all the birds, and all the mammals around the entire planet. Pickering, which is Canada, and Carlington nuclear plant will continue to test alert systems today. Canada is super friendly with the nuclear industry. Unbelievable. Nuclear industry runs Canada, literally. It's just a matter of time before you see the head of the World Nuclear News on our dollar bills. Their pictures. Pickering and Carlington nuclear plant these are decrepit, despicable facilities built on fresh water on top of that. The region is performing its nuclear alert system test yesterday. Well, thanks for the warning. And today. Thanks for the warning. You're supposed to tell us like 5 days in advance, moron. But see, radioactive fallout, wherever it happens, covers the whole planet. That's Fukushima, based on venting. It's not even based on the actual meltdowns. It's terrifying. System is designed to warn residents, too bad you're not, of any potential nuclear emergencies. It's not designed to do that. Activists forced them to put it in there. On October the 18th, landline phones within 10 kilometers of either nuclear power plant, either power plant, nuclear death, disease factories, receive a robocall, outrageous, to test phone warning systems. Today's outdoor sirens will blare their warning for 1 moment. They are all stationed within 3 kilometers of the plants. Americans have them 10 miles away, 2 kilometers. Or 3 kilometers is all Canada does. This is a huge populated areas we're talking about too, right? Cowards. Ontario will test provincial alert system through mobile phones, TVs, radios. You can't escape. Like a sirens going off. They're going to be on your phone, your TV, your radio, your newspapers. The newspaper will tell you tomorrow, right? We had nuclear tests yesterday. If you're wondering what all the noise was about. Canada's media is pathetic. But by the way, how are you going to evacuate people in these places? They're so congested. If you have an accident, everything's backed up for miles and miles and miles. Swedish regulators maintain positive repository assessments. Swedish captured regulatory agencies are still claiming a positive repository. Like, the problem with nuclear is it's splitting the atom, hemorrhaging into the environment. La 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 land. So it's hemorrhaging into the environment, pulsing. All these atoms are pulsing out of the reactors all day long. And if it's not falling into the farms and going into the food, pulsing energy you're consuming is still pulsing energy inside your body. It's floating around in the environment, pulsing energy, heating the planet up. You got to come up with a repository. So what the nuclear industry is trying to do is the worst scenario so everybody says no. So instead of taking it 1,000 miles away from any community, then digging a repository, they insist on putting it in farmland or right in your communities. They insist, so they know people will resist it. See? They want the fuel to keep splitting the atom. This is the problem with nuclear. You can't contain it. So it's still splitting the atom. Even if you never had a nuclear accident, even if you never had a nuclear meltdown, even if you never had the nuclear war they call bomb testing, nuclear power plants, the constant releases of the fuel pools at nuclear power plants are just hemorrhaging trillions per liter of isotopes into the environment. 120,000 liters a day with trillions of isotopes per liter. Every single day boil off into the communities that are normally surrounded by farms, right? So they're going to what they want to do is dig a repository. You can see in the background all farmland. And it's under the ocean on top of that. Look. Try making that up on your own. There's no reason to put it under the ocean because they know it'll go China syndrome because you don't have the technology. They're not even trying, right? If you took 1,000 universities to try to come up with a solution, you would. 50 years ago, you would have come up with a solution, an actual solution. And I can guarantee you the solution wouldn't be to put it under the ground, under the ocean, where ultimately the ocean is going to come through because it's going to go China syndrome. And the captured regulators noted that one of the studies is a scientific article on copper corrosion. This piggybacking off. Now, I've covered this story a long time ago. Well, this year, but they're claiming that if they do a 2 millimeter copper coating on the cast won't break down for over 1 million years. Take a copper penny, go down and get a glass of water from the ocean, take a copper penny and throw it in there and come back in a week's time. Or put it in the bottom of your boat. If your boat's in the water, you'll see what I mean. Copper is destroyed. But nuclear has this bombardment of gamma shines and X-rays and neutron bursts going on. And so it's going to destroy copper and gold and whatever, right? You're going to use. It's going to destroy the integrity of it. So it breaks it down on an atomic scale. Third Council joins a nuclear waste working group. Third Council, they get people who don't know nothing about nuclear and they pay them then. Surrounded by farms. This is another one, going to be surrounded by farms. Proposal to dispose of nuclear waste from across the United Kingdom in Lincolnshire. A series of deep vaults and tunnels under the sea. Under the sea. Not 1,000 miles away from the sea, where there's no humans. You got to deal with this. We're not going to have a planet in just the next decade or two. We lost most of the species since Fukushima. Oh, God, not nuclear fusion again. Nuclear fusion edges towards the mainstream. No one knows when the fusion energy will become commercially viable. But driving the private investments. Private? Really? Have you seen what all the governments worldwide have thrown at this? Is a rising alarm about global warming, which is caused by... Global warming is caused by radioactive fallout. That is global warming, see? Okay? All right. And all the precious metals on the planet got to get thrown away, and smart people, right? You got 5,000 scientists working on one alone. So instead of coming up with solutions for all the other nuclear destruction they got created on this planet, they got them tied up in another pipe dream. Goodness. Michael Scumbag Schellenberg. We'll have to do a poll on him one of these days. Michael Schellenberg. So we got a poll going right now is, can nuclear power that needs 2 dedicated coal power plants, oil or gas to run, mitigate climate change? 22 votes, and overwhelmingly majority says no. God, why are we having this conversation? And we thank you very much. So we're hoping by 2024 I'm going to have 40 people on my live shows. That'd be pretty amazing. And show the nuclear industry then, buddy. Don't fear me then, I tell you what. Imagine that 40 people on my show. It's going to happen. It took me a decade to get 23 people on my show. I knew it could happen, though. But 40, that would be a statement, see? Michael Schellenberg. That should be put in one of those cannons they use at the circus to fire humans, and then point them at a reactor and smack them into it at about 160 miles per hour. The whole world, if they knew what that creature was after doing, the whole world would be like, yeah, I like it a lot. If Democrats really cared about climate change, they would have gone nuclear. No, nuclear is climate change. And Michael Schellenberg, he looks at himself as a lobbyist. He's just a murderer. He's perpetual lies too, eh? He never stops lying. Hanford cleanup cost triples. So they figured it could cost another $700 billion to clean up Hanford after the $323 billion they just gave them. But Schellenberg is like, now he writes these articles, a progressive climate activist. Name the company's got Environmental Progress, but they're a nuclear, bizarre military industrial complex is who he's really with. He said he spent the last decade murdering people with nuclear energy under the guise of climate change. Of course, like if you look at renewables, last year in 2020, renewables were equal to 300 nuclear power plants. Imagine how long it takes to build 300 nuclear power plants. Go ahead, imagine it. I got lots of time, take your time. But so those who argue we absolutely must construct more nuclear plants to beat the climate emergency are clearly scumbags. Not mentioning no names. Michael Schellenberg, if you try to take him to Fukushima nuclear power plant, he'd claw your eyes out. No! Please! Please! No! I don't want to go there! He'd claw. You'd see his fingernails. You'd stick him right in the cement. He'd be clawing that hard. You wouldn't be able to get him in there. He'd never let go the gates of Fukushima. He'd be screeching. There'd be people coming from miles around. What the hell was that noise? Time magazine, which was bought by the lobby industry a number of years back, Herald of the Environment. Imagine how pathetic you are when you actually put that in all of your stories. And president of his own company. It's the most pathetic thing imaginable. Dates set for nuclear waste dump, public information. Never stops, does it? One great big misery machine. Radioactive Waste Management wants to build a plant at the old gas terminal 500 meters below the North Sea. They're crazies, boy. It would take like 40 years before the first train loads of nuclear waste goes there. Rather 2040. Because they got to spend $1 trillion to do an environmental impact study, right? Nuclear Regulatory Commission official says leaking gas would be responsible of the company. Nuclear Regulatory. Like, we're not going there, it's leaking. Let them deal with it. If Vermont Yankee radioactive waste casks start leaking, it's up to the plant owners to figure out what to do. Why do you call them a nuclear regulatory agency when they're like, it's up to them to figure it out? And not only that, they got to tell the nuclear regulatory it's happening before they got to figure it out on their own also. Yeah, hello, NRC. Yeah, we got a leaky cast. Okay, thanks. Take care. That's what they're telling you. That's the word from two weirdos with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the captured regulatory agencies. The casts are regularly monitored for problems, not by the nuclear regulatory agencies. The activists are saying there's two ways to remove waste from a leaking cast. By email, of course. They're too stupid now to use a telephone anymore. The first is the technological difficult re-immersion of the waste in a spent fuel pool. If it's in a cast, when you open the cast up, it detonates. As soon as the oxygen touches it, it detonates. Unless it's vented. Most of them are vented. There's always hemorrhaging isotopes. It's still splitting the atom. That's why it's in the cast. The cast is meant to trick you. That's all that is. It never stops hemorrhaging out of there. This is what my room looks like right now. You can see it up there, 273 counts per minute. I'll just make the isotopes visible for you. Pulsing energy at the speed of light. Oh, God, here we go again. The Savannah River site. How many times? They're built on one of the biggest aquifers in the United States. Let me reframe that. They're built on one of the most radioactive aquifers in the United States. Freshwater aquifers. You don't want to drink the water under that place. Now they're claiming they can churn through 4 million gallons of nuclear waste a year, or in the first year. Let me see what the numbers are on that each day. $4 million. Yeah, we might as well bring everybody in on the party. 4 million gallons divided by, let's say they do it 365 days a year. Everybody knows you don't work 365 days a year. That's 10,000 gallons of nuclear waste a day. So multiply 10,000 gallons by 10 pounds, because a gallon is 10 pounds. That's going to be a lot heavier, though. That's 110,000 pounds of nuclear waste a day. Is there anybody on the planet that actually thinks that they're able to process that? And what do you mean processing it? It's nuclear waste. If you take it and you filter it, now you got, if you take a gallon, 10 pounds, and you filter it, you got 10 pounds over here. Nothing left over here. Because it's nuclear waste. Do you get it? They're hoping you don't anyway. Because you can't filter nuclear. So if you filter nuclear, like Fukushima filtered nuclear, 2 sieverts a liter going into the filter. So after about a half an hour, you can disconnect the water, put fresh water through the filter, it'll come out the other side at about 100 sieverts a liter forever. Because that's how nuclear works. That's the issue with it, see? What? You're going to stop splitting the atom? Is that what they're trying to claim? Who knows? They're probably foolish enough to claim that, by the way. To date, a little more than 2 million gallons have been processed. But I thought you can do 4 million a year. 110,000 pounds a day, 7 days a week. Does anybody actually believe that story? Is there actually anybody gullible enough to believe that you can process it? All you're going to do is take 10 gallons that's radioactive and put it in another bucket. You can't make it less radioactive. It's nuclear waste, for goodness sakes. You can just put it in a different bucket every day for the next million years. It's still going to be brutally lethal radiation. Oh, the department's environmental liabilities total $512 billion. So between Savannah River site and Hanford site, it's $1.3 trillion. $1.3 trillion. of whatever. Climate change. They're coming to get you. That's climate change is nuclear. So this climate change from nuclear war smoke could threaten global food supply. Oh my God, man. The whole planet is lunatic, isn't it? Yeah. Let's try that again. Hang on. Nobody knows the scumbags we've covered in nuclear. So let's hit that one again. Climate change could, from nuclear war smoke, could threaten global food supplies. All nuclear power plants are surrounded by farms. Do you think that's an accident? Do you think that's an accident? Even future ones surrounded by farms. Even Chalk River, look, the farms right up to Chalk River where they got an ongoing nuclear meltdown right now. Farm. All the nuclear power plants, you go look for that pictures from above, they're all surrounded by farms. A little farm here, a little farm there. And you'd have 1 million radioactive buckets too, yeah. 1 million radioactive buckets here, little million radioactive buckets there. Fukushima radioactive fallout is global warming. That is global warming. Like there was one study in Canada from Ottawa showing 220 million of these atoms per liter of rainfall falling on the United States and Canada. This was iodine-129, by the way. Pre-nuclear age, worldwide and all the oceans included, there was around 100 kilograms of iodine-129. Since nuclear, there's tens of thousands of kilograms now on the planet. This story is crazy. South Africa National Nuclear Regulators, the captured regulators, of course, neglects radioactive mine dump threatening the health of hundreds of thousands of people. Radioactive dumps could be poisoning hundreds of thousands of people. Not could, but they actually are, as I'll show you. Oh, wish I was in. One spot there is worse than Chernobyl. People are eating radioactive waste from a small mine dump. It's called pica. And eating... What the hell was that? Where did the other arm come from? I grew another arm. That's not good. There's all that radiation around me. Who knows? I've never seen that before. Eating or ingesting soil is a common practice among children and pregnant women. Describes how women often walk around the abandoned mines because they have camps there. Landscape with yellow faces. So they're using yellow cake because they don't know any better, and they're putting it on their face. And they're using the soil from the dump as a sunscreen. Women also use it to cure acne. Yellow cake cures acne, for God's sakes. Don't put that on the internet. Children are playing on top of the leftover from the uranium mine production sites. Look. So people living on and playing in radioactive mine dumps means the nuclear regulatory in South Africa is not doing their job. They don't have a job. Their job is to go. If anybody asks us a question, they're like, "Oh yeah, no, we checked it out. It's all good." That it? Okay. I gotta go play golf. Take care. Activists says they're incapable and unwilling to act, referring to the organization as disingenuous and tardy in its response to multiple warnings and reports from reputable organizations, among them reports by the Harvard School of Law, the Witwatersrand University School of Law, and the Social Economic Rights Institute, as well as reports commissioned by the Nuclear Regulatory itself, and Gatun Government, the Council of Geoscience, Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, Department of Water and Sanitation, have all come out. So what are you doing, man? They're like, yeah, we're taking our time. I'll get to it. Next 100 years, no rush. Yeah, their job is to kill everything they can. That's right. The Nuclear Regulatory declared the Tudor shaft radiological hazardous in 2011. Shaft emits radioactivity levels 13 times higher than the artificially inflated, globally accepted standards. That's comforting. You gotta see that extra hand. I got no idea what that is. I'm gonna stop doing it. Ah, there it is again. Oh, you know what that is? I'll show you what that is. I forgot. I forgot. It's because I'm in the picture too, see? So instead of going to the big big screen like that, and inserting myself, you only get one hand. No, I'm not good enough. That's not good enough for someone like me. I got to make it hard on everybody. And so if I done this, that's not it. If I done that, then you can appreciate why the extra hand is there, right? And so if I superimpose myself here, then I got two hands. I love it. I got two big hands. Look at me. Dana, the three-armed freak. He covered so much radiation, he's now radioactive. It was a tragedy. I don't want to do that. Hang on. Let's just do cuts. Cut. Cuts is where you just jump the camera around. Weird, isn't it? Stop jumping, Data. Okay, I'm jumping. Santa Fe County Commissioner hosts a nuclear waste emergency response town hall meeting on effects of proposed WIPP expansion. WIPP, yes. You know, when WIPP melted down, they actually had a nuclear meltdown. They said they had a truck fire, and they spent $2 billion cleaning up the truck fire. The official story is they had a truck fire, not a meltdown. So I actually had all kinds of documentation about this when it happened. So I put out like a 50-minute video breaking down the documentation of what happened. So the local TV station, KRQE or something, chopped out a piece of my clip where I said the playgrounds are covered in radioactive fallout, the schools, the community was all covered, which it was, 100%. And because they had a truck fire, it never went back down for 10 days, right? And when they decided to go back down, we found radiation. We can't go back. Apparently there's a leak down there somewhere. I took $6 billion total, but $2 billion, they had a salt truck, the back tire caught fire. This is the picture they were showing. That's why they abandoned 55 football field sized caverns because of a truck tire fire for 10 days. Oh yeah, truck tire fire. So WIPP, of course, is they're taking a legacy nuclear waste from, I hate using the word laboratories, but that's the name some of these facilities got attached to them. They're weapons production facilities and nuclear reactors experimental sodium reactors and everything else that have melted down. They're packaging that up because it's been sitting around for 60 years. And they're bringing in a lot of transient workers. They're packaging that up and shipping it to WIPP. Now, it's vented all the way on the highways. Remember last night I played a little clip of WIPP where they say, no, everything is vented. Everything, baby. It's all vented. And I can't remember, 12,000 truckloads or something? So releasing radiation into the communities on the highway as they're driving there. When they get there, they repackage everything. Everything's vented. Then they put it down in a salt mine. Why don't we store antique cars in a salt mine? Because it'll rust the daylights out of a moron. Oh, yeah, that's right. I know it was something. I just couldn't put my finger on it. Thanks for setting me straight. Santa Fe County Commissioner Anna Hansen is hosting a nuclear waste emergency response, which is appropriate. It should be a nuclear waste panic emergency response, panic response town hall meeting. Get your pitchforks and your blowtorches there and go get rid of those people. You won't have to have these meetings. Santa Fe Fire Chief will provide a special presentation. Not nuclear scientists or nuclear academics or nuclear alumni or even nuclear students. Because they won't go there, but at least the fire chief is brave enough to say something. In the unlikely event, first off, everything is vented. So that's an event. You released radioactivity into your community constantly. You know what? Never mind. I'm not doing WIPP tonight. I can't direct you to my presentations on WIPP because he took down my site last month with 24,000 subscribers without even an email or a strike on my account or nothing. I was out 450 miles away in the woods doing a species counts because there's no spiders anymore, no fish are jumping from ponds, no flocks of birds flying anymore. And I was reporting live that, that there's no creatures left in our woods. No spiders. Imagine that in your woods. And they took down my site without telling me why. I still don't even today know why. So I have a new site with 440 wonderful subscribers. And I'm lucky to get 28 people. Wow. Told you, one of these days I'm going to have like 40 people on my show. 6 Canadian university students had their fighting climate change. Unfortunately, they're not smart enough to know that nuclear. So they show a picture of a bushfire in Australia. You know how hot Australia actually is? Pre-Fukushima? My God, they had a bushfire. That's climate change if I've ever heard of it. So they bring out a bunch of people, a bunch of kids who don't know any better. Mostly girls, as you notice. But they don't bother having this conversation. Well, the radioactive fallout, it's covering the planet, it's pulsing energy, the speed of light. You know how much energy it takes to make something move, the speed of light, right? So like these atoms that you're seeing here, this is a simulation, obviously, right? But they're like little nuclear engines on their own because they pulse at the speed of light every second in every direction. So they're able to propel themselves all around the planet. And you suck it in, and it sequesters in your muscles, your organs, and your bones, or the animals, or insects, or birds. And your bodies and the insects and animals and mammals and birds' bodies will attack it with white blood cells for the rest of their natural life. Try to build a tumor around it. Take a couple of decades, right? But what happens is you now have more white blood cells than red blood cells as you get more and more of this breathing in, sequestering in your muscles, your organs, and your bones. And so you're producing all these white blood cells, decreasing your red blood cells carrying oxygen, nutrition throughout your body. So you're more susceptible to pathogens and viruses that are normally harmless and innocuous and benign. And so there's 1,800 illnesses and diseases and autoimmune deficiencies and injuries. So When you look at these plumes, you'll also notice that that's where all the emaciated birds and whales and mammals and all the animals and insects have disappeared from. There's a direct correlation. Nuclear engineering. This is another lobbying media. They're lobbyists. So Canada and South Korea, Korea Hydro and nuclear power, and Canada Nuclear Laboratories. These are monsters. The Canadian Nuclear Laboratory bunch, I've covered them probably 500 times over the years. They're actual monsters. Have signed a memorandum of understanding for technical cooperation in the field of used nuclear fuel. So we don't even have a repository in Canada, for God's sakes. And then the people they put in charge are the people that created the waste in the first place. Because they've jacked our country. And now they're actively in sedition of our country. South Carolina nuclear advisors back atomic fuel plant with a history of environmental violation. Now, we've covered this facility many times. Many times. The Westinghouse Nuclear Fuel Factory. So they want an extension of 40 years. But their license doesn't expire until 2027. 6 years' time. The reason they want the extension now, because in 6 years' time, the place will be decrepit, right? They'll never get an extension. So let's do it now before the whistleblower shows up. For all the cancer spikes crazy. Yeah, that's what's going on there. Like, you shouldn't give them an extension until their last year. Then you should go and inspect the place and close it. Like, if you went there now and inspected it, you close it. But the nuclear regulatory is like, any problems? No? Okay, 40-year extension it is. There is no regulators. There's monsters, real-life monsters. The retired Air Force officer presents evidence of a UFO's tampering with American nuclear arsenal. This story, now, unfortunately, it's coming from comicbook.com. Great. Comic books like, great, this is more Hulks than Spider-Man. This is fantastic. These people are adamant that these sites, these were people that ran the sites on top of that, well-placed people. And they're saying, like, wake up, there's something else going on here. Suggests it has irrefutable evidence UFOs have tampered with American nuclear weapons. And I put so many stories that you can't keep up with. I didn't put no links below, I just put the title of just a lot of the stories. So just copy, paste the story. There's a 2-hour video presentation. Audio gets screwed up. I'm not quite finished listening to it, but the audio gets screwed up in some of the places. But they fix it pretty quickly. You can't deny it anyway. There's a whole bunch of these people, and they're pissed, and they're angry, and they've been silenced for many decades, but they're still actively trying to have a conversation like, what the hell was it? All they can say is it's probably, as far as they're concerned, it's an extraterrestrial intervention. Meet the activists who founded an anti-nuclear lesbian utopia in the throes of the Cold War. So, a group of activists and women are being all labeled as lesbians because they protest nuclear. Yeah? You think Michael Schellenberg would be upset about that? He's a lesbian, right? In 1981, a Welsh group named Women for Life on Earth set off to Greenham to march and protest against the nuclear missiles being stored in the British soil, and soon realized that a march was not enough. They stayed for 2 years, set up camp. They actually surrounded these facilities and joined hands. Like, you're talking a huge amount, 50,000 women. In order to denigrate them, they labeled them all, for some reason, as lesbians, as if it matters, as if that really matters. And even call it a utopia, as if it was a big sex binge or something. Not protest, but a big sex binge. Media is revolting, eh? Concern is Clyde nuclear base emergency staff strike today over safety fears because, now we covered this earlier this year, right? First off, they got all the nuclear submarines parked there that they can't decommission, that the military, the Navy just ran away and abandoned. I think there's 19 of them there. And then the firemen, they laid off a whole bunch of firemen. And so if they have at a nuclear dump facility, if you have an event, but they spent like an absurd amount of money on equipment, then they laid off all the firemen. So instead of taking the money and using it to budget out for firemen, they went out and bought a whole bunch of toys that they can't use because they don't have enough firemen. The lunatic world of nuclear. So think about this study, academic study, peer-reviewed and published in a major journal. They wouldn't lie to you, would they? They said that sunken nuclear submarine Kamsatelets, it is found that neither the submarine hull nor the reactor vessel will be destroyed by corrosion for at least 1,000 years. Now, if you go look up shipwrecks, you'll see ships that haven't been there for 10 years and are rusted right through. It's the ocean, stupid. And so to claim that a nuclear submarine, which is suffering from a Wigner effect on top of that, was scuttled, and it wasn't sunk, it was scuttled, full of, it had a nuclear accident. So it was basically a nuclear meltdown. And the scumbag media comes out, like, no, the hull won't breach for even 1,000 years. Even 1,000 years won't breach. We're going to publish that. Yeah, let's publish that. Yep. I got to get back to Harvard. Have a good day. The Scots threatened to launch nuclear weapons while holding cousin hostage. The Daily Record. Like, the United Kingdom media is the people that work there. If you've seen them on the same side of the street as you're walking, they were coming towards you, you wouldn't have to know they work for the media. You'd see them coming towards you, you'd cross the street, or you go into the first building. You're like, I gotta come. There's something strange coming up the sidewalk. United Kingdom media, some guy who's unstable, just a moron, and a big salacious headline: threatens to launch nuclear weapons. Have no access to nuclear weapons at all. Day traders are driving uranium prices higher. Right, Sprouts here in Canada, an investment company, bought up over 12 million pounds this year of raw uranium, and they're artificially inflated stocks by doing that. And so now they're trying to bring new investors in. Right, this is only going to last for a week or two. They're bringing in new investors. This stock is flying up. Look at it. It just went up. And so they'll put all their money, all their life savings into it. And in 2 weeks' time, it'll crash. We watched this now for 10 years straight. Same scam over and over and over. And the stock market's out there like, I never seen nothing. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. The regulators for the stock market are supposed to stop that and arrest these people and give victims back their money. They're too busy buying the stocks and selling it when they do this, right? This is a 100% Ponzi scheme. All of these people If this was China, they'd get a bullet in the back of the head, and their family would have to pay for the bullet. Individual traders flocked to the Canadian uranium investment. Yeah, like, you can't buy all the uranium and then go flat tits up. So they got to create this artificial moment for a few weeks and sell their uranium to make a killing. What buying the support of top think tanks get you? The sun, the moon, the stars. The U.S. spends a lot of money on nuclear garbage. Last month, the House Arms Service Committee authorized tens of billions of dollars to bolster the U.S. nuclear arsenal that you can't even use. Just build a bomb, but don't put nothing inside of it. The Ruskies will satellites go over like, oh my God, they got all kinds of nuclear weapons. You should say it was crazy. There's a picture. Most of which will go to government contractors, the government being the industry itself, who captured the government and the universities and the medias and the regulatory agencies. Also develop, build, and maintain the nuclear weapons for a fine price. With nearly $2 trillion for nuclear modernization on the table over the next 3 decades, that's going to triple, you know that. Well, they need $1.3 trillion just to clean up a couple of the nuclear sites, for goodness sakes. Millions of dollars in campaign contribution and lobbyists. Of course, under the original charters, under the Constitution, lobbying was illegal. Right? So they ended up changing the laws to give corporations certain human rights. So they piggybacked in on the slavery law. And Justice Hugo Blackhead wrote an eloquent dissent in the 1930s. Supreme Court Justice Hugo Black. He wrote an eloquent dissent of how absurd it was that a law meant to free black people from an oppressive government was being used by corporations to enslave a sovereign people, which is you, by the way. Because now the corporations can't be held accountable because they have human rights. You can't sneak inspect them. OSHA can't sneak inspect them and stuff like this. They have human rights, and they're going to spend the money to exercise those rights. See? But originally, the charters, you can hold these companies accountable. You can put the owners in jail when they polluted our environments. You can sell their organization to pay outstanding debt and restitution and remediation. And you can keep them in jail for doing it, right? Now you can't hold them accountable. Now there's no incentive not to be monsters. So now all we got is monsters. Independent think tanks who steer our public policies. Independent think tanks steer your public policies. That should frighten the living shit out of everybody on this planet, that statement alone. The International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, ICAN, found that in 2020, nuclear weapons companies donated $10 million to at least 12 think tanks that research and write about nuclear policies. Just throw money at them, right? Here, write 10 paragraphs that we can use now. Sent to all 7,000 government officials will get the email from their lobbyists. And they'll read and go like, hey, that's a great idea. They all read the same article at the same time by the same author with the same paragraphs and the same pictures. These aren't anonymous think tanks either, but rather leaders in the industry like the Center for Strategic International Studies, the Atlantic Council, the Hudson Institute, Heritage Foundation. See, doesn't sound like a think tank, does it? And Brookings Institute, which we know is a despicable think tank. So I do not dispute the need for think tanks to solicit donations or grants to fund their research. It's not research. They're employed by the industry itself. And they're getting government funds. And think tanks have well, first off, I should disclose that with a think tank. I'm the president of the nuclearproctologist.org on top of that. So ashamed. And I advocate no nuclear in space, ever, under any circumstances. We call the elements from nuclear anthropogenic man-made elements because they're not created by the sun or by the stars. They're unique. They're created by humans. And that's not something we should introduce into space, which is something we don't understand, right? But I'm actually a think tank, yeah? You check out my site, you'll find out that's exactly what I am. I'm a think tank. I think I am anyway. I think I am, I think I am, I think I am, I think I am, I think I am. Is anybody thinking anymore? Is anybody able to think anymore? Oh my God. Let me see here. Hang on. Wait. I don't know if this will work out at all. Let's give it a try anyway. So we got the beast. And so I got a long way to go before I know what I'm doing. Okay, I ain't never gonna know what I'm doing, but I'm starting to know a little bit. Not about what I'm doing though, but so I got that much worked out. Almost. Now I still got parts on order coming in, like the autofocus and stuff like that. And I just wanted to show you how far I got with this so far. Like I don't stop working on nuclear, but I still found time to manage to do this for some reason. The big question is, can I remember what to do? Oh yeah, we got it. There we go. So my cell phone can now control this too. So getting the activation, getting all the calibrations, getting the motor calibrations, the 6-point calibration, all good. So I conquered this much anyway. But there's all the handheld functions. Now I have so I'm focused on the camera. You can see I got the kinks out of that. Right, so that's pretty cool. And there's a whole bunch of these functions, right? There's the selfie stick. Hiya, how you doing? There's many of these functions that so there's the upside down sling effect and all this other stuff. That's going to make a dramatic difference, right? Because this is a new camera, new lenses. And I struggled. You wouldn't believe the struggle to get all of this, to get this far. It's a huge deal. So I got to go to a machine shop and get the machine shop to make an adapter because I can't find one because I have a vest with articulating arm. The spring loaded, right? And then I can mount this on the articulating arm. So I don't even have to hang on to it. Now I got to buy in a couple more pieces so I can mount the double microphones off it. Probably should get a better it was going to fall apart. And then on the other side, because there's spots here to mount these, they're about $40 to $50 for each piece. They can hold like 2 pounds though. And the other side needs the extension, but then it needs like a $200 monitor. And I got a cage for the camera, and the cage has all kinds of screws around it so I can mount the lights and the microphones, but the big the big piece of the microphone gets mounted to the side. But it's going to be fantastic footage coming up from here on out. It's really going to be special. It's going to be really cool footage coming up for the next number of years from this stuff. So that's exciting. I was trying to go down today because we got emaciated birds washing up on our coastline, thousands of them. And I tried to get down today. It's a long haul, right? I got halfway there and my oil light and buzzer went off. And I topped up the oil a few days ago. And so I pulled the plug on and came home and checked it. Everything looks normal. Reset the oil warning system. But I picked up a filter and oil, so I'll get that changed tomorrow before I take a chance and run somewhere, right? Because it's a long way to run. I want to get down there and try to interview some of the people that are picking up the birds. The storm petrels, but there's other birds washing up too. It's not just storm petrels. And but it's a big deal. We got this, so we thank everybody that contributed that. And James Lucid donated another 60 yesterday, which is a huge deal because we got to buy the extra gears, right? And there's a hole there, and these are special adapters that fit on both sides of it. So I got a handle on the way. We got a cage. And something else I ordered. I can't even remember off the top of my head. But like you say, it takes a while to put this equipment together and then to learn how to use it and actually physically get out. And so it'll be great coming up. Yeah, no, it's really cool. Yeah. No, it's good stuff. I was super excited that I got the basic kinks out of this now. Because you're always wondering, man, am I ever going to get it to work, right? Is this thing actually going to work? And it wasn't too bad, because obviously I'm technically pretty good with stuff. But it's an overload on your brain when you go through this stuff. The first several hours are always like, oh no, why did I do this to myself? You just got to persevere and you'll see, you'll find your way through it. Okay, all right. So, believe it or not, we actually covered a lot of stories here today, right? And I got 1,000 stories to catch up to. Plus, there's endless stories coming at me all day, every day. And so I just run at it head first and bang into it all day long and then tell the story at nighttime. And so I noticed last night somebody was asking, how do you donate? Let me show you how you can donate. I don't know if I can do it anymore. So here's the video you're watching right now. Hiya. And we got 37 votes. 97% of the people says nuclear power can't mitigate climate change. Hi, everybody. So if you come down to the bottom of the description, there are a lot of stories in it. You see two links. One is PayPal, and one is the nuclearproctologist.org. So PayPal, don't click on request because people have done that and then they never come back. Click on send, and you can donate. And the nuclear proctologist, if you scroll down a little bit at my site, you'll see a donate button. Click on the donate button and you can donate. That's the only way, 2 ways you can donate. So they're both there, always in the bottom, very, very bottom of the description. And they're 100% work, 100% of the times. So let's say Good night to everybody. Thank you, everyone. PBS. Ted Richards, Victor, you're welcome. Johnson, Colette S. Pansies. Awesome. John Cranshaw. Lori, I only serve one king. Lori says, I don't understand why people have become so whipped. What the hell happened to people? Colette called them pansies. It's a good reply. The model, hi there. Mark. Yeah, I'm praying for the world, for sure. Me too. And John and Cough Mixture. Hi, everyone. Lawrence, or Leonard Lacey. Hi, Lawrence. Leonard. My eyesight's shot here tonight. Squinting at the little digital screen on the gimbal. I'll do that to you. Sam, which is HTML. Sam. James Oldhand. Hi, James. Yeah, GMO farms surrounding nuclear plants. Oh, my God. You know that's true. Wow. Yeah, good one. Pendulum. Yeah, GMO farms. That's right. Hire the homeless to sweep the kitty litter. That Whip. Whip was blamed on kitty litter. Mansfield. And Mansfield. Good night, everybody. Anybody I miss is only because I'm half blind here. Not on purpose. Dana Nasana. Hey, Dana. Chandra Churchill. Hi, Sandra. Robert Kovacs. You know, I wear it. It's a badge of honor, and I wear it proud. Yeah, that's for sure. I still got 29 people on my show. Wow. What a wonderful planet. Amazing. And James Lucid. Thanks again, James. God bless you, my friend. Chad, Ella, William Joseph. You made lots of people here tonight, didn't we? Did I get everybody that I could find? Good night, everybody. Have a great night. I'll see everybody tomorrow night. I got even more news for tomorrow night. Way more. It's going to be an epic show tomorrow night. So we still need not a bunch of odds and ends pieces. Well, the monitor is $207 on Amazon. And then the piece that holds it on properly is $40. And then you need a $40 piece to mount the audio on the other side. You probably can't see it from there, right? But amplifier and the microphones. And when we're finished, then the cage will hold three lights that I control with Bluetooth. They're color-corrected lights for photography and videos. And super happy that we got it working. Definitely an accident. Good night, everybody. Thanks for everybody. I'll see everybody tomorrow night. You have a great night. Great day tomorrow. Don't eat GMO food from around nuclear power plants or anywhere else. The nuclear industry is a lunatic. Imagine farms all around a nuclear power plant. all over the place. Imagine how friggin' messed up you gotta be to do that. Yeah, hugs for everybody. Have a great night, folks. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Take care. Thanks, Kevin. Good night, Kevin. Good night, everybody.